It was a sticky June morning in 2024 when everything I had carefully built came crashing down in the most public way imaginable. I stood at the front of a secure conference room deep inside the Defense Intelligence Agency headquarters in Arlington, Virginia. My name is Sophia Lang, 34 years old, and I was delivering a classified briefing on emerging cyber and tactical threats in the Indo-Pacific region. The room was packed with senior military officers, intelligence officials, and a few cleared contractors. My slides were sharp, my data airtight after months of painstaking analysis. My voice stayed steady, professional, the way years of climbing the ladder had taught me. The door slammed open without warning. In strode Harlan Graves, my stepfather, moving with the entitled swagger of someone who believed rules didn't apply to him. His military connections had somehow cleared security, a breach I would make sure was investigated later. Before anyone could stop him, he marched straight to the podium, a cruel smirk twisting his mouth. "You're no real intelligence officer," he announced loud enough for the entire room to hear. Then, to my horror, he pulled out a pair of heavy metal handcuffs and snapped one around my left wrist. The click echoed like a gunshot in the silent room. I froze, the laser pointer still in my right hand. 40 high-ranking personnel watched in stunned disbelief as he secured the second cuff. "Just a pretender playing dress-up in a big building," he sneered. "That pathetic little bonus of yours? $12,000? That's not success. That's a joke." Colonel Ramirez, the presiding officer, finally snapped out of it and barked for security. But the damage was irreversible. As guards escorted Harlan out, I caught sight through the reinforced windows of military helicopters touching down on the nearby pad, delegates I was supposed to brief next. Their rotors throbbed in sync with my pounding heart. The room erupted into murmurs once the cuffs were removed. Someone handed me a key, but the burning shame and rage stayed locked inside me. Colleagues offered awkward support, but I could see the pity in their eyes. That evening, I sat alone in my unassuming sedan in a quiet Arlington parking lot, hands still shaking on the wheel 3 hours later. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing, messages from my team, concerned coworkers, and one terse text from my mother. "Harlan says there was a misunderstanding. Call me." A misunderstanding. As if being handcuffed in front of the entire chain of command during a classified briefing was the same as forgetting someone's coffee order. I dialed my mother, Vivian, at nearly 9 that night. "Mom." He put actual handcuffs on me in the middle of a briefing. "Do you understand how career-ending that could have been?" Her voice came back distant, almost rehearsed. "He thought you were presenting flawed data. He was trying to protect the family name." Protect? I had earned my clearance and reputation through merit. His stunt had humiliated me in front of everyone who mattered professionally. "You've always been too sensitive." "Sophia," she sighed. "I'm sure it wasn't that bad." I hung up and stared at the lights of the city, a cold clarity settling over me. I was finished being the family punching bag. That night, in my modest apartment, I opened a hidden folder on my laptop labeled Insurance. Inside were years of saved voicemails, screenshots of texts, and forwarded emails. Harlan telling me I'd never measure up. Vivian begging me not to embarrass the family at gatherings. Messages from my half-brother Brandon's fiancée Lydia calling me an outsider who didn't belong in their world. I had collected them quietly, never sure if I would use them, clinging to some faint hope of acceptance. But acceptance was never coming. To understand how we got here, you have to go back to the beginning. My biological father disappeared when I was 5, leaving almost no memories. By 7, my mother had married Harlan Graves, a retired Army major who had moved into high-paying private security consulting. They had Brandon soon after, the perfect golden child who could do no wrong. Harlan measured worth by titles,
bank accounts,
and appearances. I was tolerated as part of the picture-perfect family portrait, but never truly accepted. When I chose intelligence analysis after college,
he scoffed.
paper pushing. You'll never command respect like a real officer. The next day, he drained the college fund I'd been promised, claiming I needed to stand on my own. I worked 2 jobs, took loans, graduated with honors, and landed my DIA position purely on merit. Vivian always made excuses. He just wants you to succeed. But success in the Graves household meant following Harlan's script: submission, admiration, silence. Brandon embraced it fully, building a flashy business career more style than substance. By 28, he was engaged to Lydia, a sharp, status-obsessed woman who viewed me with open disdain. Analysts like you barely crack 6 figures, she once said at Thanksgiving, inspecting her nails. How do you even survive in DC without roommates? None of them knew the truth. For 6 years, I had quietly built Lang Defense Analytics, a specialized consulting firm helping private defense contractors navigate procurement, technology assessments, and threat modeling. My DIA clearance and expertise gave me an edge no one else had. I worked nights and weekends, keeping everything compliant with ethics rules, but never advertising it. By 2024, my firm generated over $3 million annually. I had a team of contractors, patents on analytical software, major stock in key tech companies, and a hidden waterfront condo in Miami. My net worth hovered around $2 million, tucked away in investments no one knew about. I drove a plain car, lived modestly, and let them believe I scraped by on government pay. It protected my career and shielded me from exploitation. The handcuffing wasn't the first humiliation. The previous February, Harlan hosted a lavish dinner for potential investors in Brandon's latest venture. I was invited only because Vivian thought it would look good to have our DIA daughter there. Harlan steered every conversation to money and bonuses. When attention turned to me, he jumped in. Sophia does important work. Of course. But government salaries, what was it last year? 75. 80,000. The table went quiet. A kind guest tried to pivot to the value of public service. Harlan laughed. Let's hope that's enough, or Sophia's getting shortchanged. I excused myself. In the hall, I overheard Brandon and Lydia laughing. Did you see her face? Pathetic. 8 months later at my birthday dinner, I mentioned a promotion. Harlan dismissed it instantly. Paperwork, not leadership. Now Brandon's latest acquisition. That's impressive. 20 employees report to him. When I confronted Harlan privately about the constant belittling, he looked puzzled. You're imagining things. We're proud of our DIA analyst. Gaslighting was his specialty after 27 years. May 25th, 2024 was supposed to be a milestone. I led a high-stakes briefing on cyber threats to a room full of generals, contractors, and senators. My analysis had taken my team months. Harlan had been invited as a consultant on private security protocols, something I only learned when he walked in. I faltered for a split second but recovered, determined to stay professional. During Q&A, he raised his hand. My stomach dropped. I'm curious about your qualifications, he began. Tone dripping condescension. Your background is analysis, not operations. Wouldn't someone with field experience be better? He attacked my financial impact estimates, calling the prevented loss figures laughable. Then he stood. I'm sorry, but I can't watch the charade. He produced the handcuffs again, the same heavy police-style ones, and snapped them on me at the podium. You're no officer. You have no authority here. Security dragged him out while he shouted about my $12,000 bonus being a joke. I stood handcuffed, cheeks flaming, as murmurs rippled through the room.
Outside.
Helicopters landed, delegates arriving. The timing felt cruelly perfect. Later that evening in my car, the weight crushed me. But something shifted. I remembered a mentor's words: success is the best revenge. Harlan, Vivian, Brandon, and Lydia had no idea about my parallel life. They believed I struggled while I had quietly become wealthy and respected in defense circles. My closest ally was Marcus Reed, CEO of a major client firm, who had become a friend. Months earlier over dinner he'd said, "You could stop hiding anytime." I had laughed it off then. Family was complicated. After the incident, Colonel Ramirez called me in. What happened was inexcusable. Harlan's clearances are revoked. We're reviewing security protocols. He praised my briefing and mentioned doubling my bonus with talk of a leadership role. My reputation had survived, ironically strengthened. Harlan texted, "We need to talk." Family dinner Sunday. I ignored it and contacted a top law firm specializing in defamation and emotional distress. The lead attorney reviewed my evidence folder. "You have a strong case: defamation, harassment, emotional distress, and false imprisonment from the handcuffing. What outcome do you want?" "Justice," I said. "Recognition of the truth." We planned carefully. The perfect stage would be Brandon and Lydia's engagement party on June 22nd at a sprawling estate outside Chicago, lavish. 150 guests. The social elite Harlan loved impressing. I arranged leave from work, coordinated with the law firm, bought a stunning designer dress that cost more than Harlan thought I earned monthly, and waited. In the meantime, I finalized documents and hired discreet security and technical support for the venue. The 2 weeks blurred with preparation and quiet rage. I reviewed old messages, Harlan texting me I'd never be good enough, Vivian pleading not to mention my job because it embarrassed investors, Lydia's accidental email to my work address calling me jealous and an embarrassment, recordings of dinners where I was mocked. The evidence painted decades of systematic undermining. I had hoped for reconciliation once. That hope died the day the cuffs clicked shut. June 22nd dawned bright and warm. The estate gardens were picture-perfect. White tables, string quartet, champagne flowing. I arrived fashionably late, the deep emerald dress hugging my figure, diamond earrings catching light, hair loose in soft waves instead of my usual work bun. Heads turned. Vivian's smile faltered when she saw me. Harlan's jaw tightened. Brandon and Lydia held court near the fountain, laughing that practiced social laugh. I took a champagne flute and moved through the crowd with polite nods, pulse racing but face calm. I greeted my mother and stepfather. "Sophia, we weren't sure you'd make it," Vivian said, voice tight. "Miss my brother's engagement?" "Never." Harlan started. "About what happened." I cut him off smoothly. "Today is for celebration. Let's not ruin it." Relief crossed their faces. They thought I would keep the family facade intact. The next hour felt surreal. I made small talk about my modest government job while my hired team set up in the ballroom. At 6:30, guests moved inside for dinner and speeches. I sat at the head table, the dutiful sister on display. The 5-course meal dragged. Speeches began, best man praising Brandon's brilliance, maid of honor gushing about the perfect couple, Lydia's father boasting about their destined greatness. Then Harlan rose, glass raised, voice booming with authority. "Today we celebrate excellence, leadership, integrity, the Graves family values." The lights suddenly dimmed. Confusion rippled. I stood, microphone in hand. "Technical issue? Allow me." The projector screen behind him lit up with a photo of him cuffing me at the DIA. Gasps filling the room. Harlan lunged. "Turn that off." 2 security personnel I had hired blocked him. "Please sit." "Mr.
Graves."
MS. Lang has reserved this time. I stood center stage, voice steady. For those who don't know me well, I'm Sophia Lang, Brandon's sister. Today I'd like to share a different family story. The screen showed the DIA incident in full. Harlan's face twisted in fury as he was restrained. 3 weeks ago, my stepfather stormed a classified briefing and handcuffed me in front of 40 senior officials, calling me a fraud and my work meaningless. He shouted again but was powerless. I continued. What my family doesn't know is that my DIA salary and bonus are only a fraction of my income. For 6 years, I've run Lang Defense Analytics, a firm providing strategic analysis to major defense contractors and governments. The screen flipped to company logos. Revenue statements exceeding $3 million annually. Client lists including Fortune 500 firms and international partners. Investment portfolios. Patent documents. And property records for my Miami waterfront condo. My current net worth is approximately $2 million. Murmurs swelled. Brandon paled. Lydia's eyes narrowed calculatingly. More important than the money is what my family truly thinks of me. Screenshots appeared. Harlan's text saying I'd never be an officer in his eyes. Vivian asking me not to embarrass them. Lydia's message calling me an outsider and embarrassment. I included audio clips of conversations documenting years of emotional abuse and gaslighting. I looked directly at Harlan. You tried to cage me with those handcuffs in front of my colleagues. But here's my real credential, success built in spite of your efforts to tear me down. The room fell deathly silent. I announced that on Monday the law firm would file a $1 million lawsuit against Harlan and Vivian for defamation, emotional distress, and false imprisonment. Harlan surged up again, raging about ingratitude. I cut him off coldly. You've spoken for 27 years. Now it's my turn. I addressed the guests. I'm not here to ruin the party. The truth matters. And I'm done living in shadows and lies. Lights came up on a room of shocked faces. An aunt stood first. I always suspected something was wrong. Sophia, I'm so sorry. The spell broke. Conversations exploded. Some guests approached me with support. Others clustered around the stunned family. I made my way toward the exit, pausing by Brandon. Congratulations. I hope you find real happiness. He stared, mouth opening and closing silently. Lydia hissed. You've ruined everything. Was this your plan? I met her eyes.
No.
I just stopped pretending. Outside, the summer air felt lighter. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. How did it go? Footsteps followed. Harlan appeared, face flushed with anger and panic. You think you're clever? This isn't over. You've declared war. I replied calmly.
No.
I've declared independence. There's a difference. He demanded a private talk to fix things. It went too far when you handcuffed me. Nothing left to fix, only consequences. He grabbed my arm hard. Security intervened instantly. Guests watched, some recording discreetly. Harlan's control crumbled publicly before the very elite he'd courted for decades. This isn't over, he repeated weakly. It is for me, I said, and walked away. A helicopter crossed overhead, not military this time. But the sight made me smile. Rotors had marked my near collapse. Now one flew as I reclaimed my life. I drove off without looking back. The fallout hit faster than anyone expected. By Monday, someone had leaked video of my presentation. Despite security concerns around the DIA mention, the human drama, handcuffs, family betrayal, secret wealth went viral. Hashtags trended. The law firm filed the lawsuit detailing the pattern of abuse and the handcuffing. The DIA issued a statement confirming an unauthorized disruption and enhanced security measures. Harlan's consulting firm lost major clients almost immediately. His image as a disciplined professional lay in ruins. Lydia's modest influencer presence suffered when her demeaning messages circulated. She lost followers and brand deals. The biggest surprise came 2 weeks later. Vivian called on a Tuesday evening. Voice tentative. "Sophia, can we talk?" I listened. "I've left Harlan. I'm staying with my sister for now." Shock silenced me momentarily. "After your speech, things deteriorated." He blamed me, raged about your business. But what he said about you, the threats, finally woke me up. I didn't recognize the man I married. "I'm sorry, Sophia. I failed you repeatedly. I chose him over you." Her voice cracked. We spoke for nearly an hour, the most honest conversation in decades. Forgiveness wouldn't come overnight. But it was a fragile start. Brandon's engagement didn't survive. The party had limped on awkwardly after my exit, but weeks of scandal and revelations about family finances shook Lydia.
She ended it in July.
Brandon emailed me in August, vulnerable for the first time, acknowledging his role and asking if we could talk. I agreed to coffee next time I was in Chicago. No promises. Professionally, I resigned from the DIA in late July, accepting a consulting retainer from Colonel Ramirez for special projects. Lang Defense Analytics moved to larger offices in Miami, hired full-time analysts, and expanded rapidly. The lawsuit settled out of court for a substantial sum from Harlan. Vivian was removed from the complaint as part of reconciliation efforts. The money funded a foundation supporting young women in intelligence and national security careers. 1 year after the handcuffing, I stood on the balcony of my Miami condo, sunset painting the water gold and crimson. My phone buzzed, Marcus inviting me to dinner to celebrate a new acquisition. I smiled and replied yes. A civilian helicopter crossed the skyline, reminding me how far I had come. Those cuffs meant to shame me had instead snapped the invisible chains of decades of control. Painful moments can become liberating when you find the courage to rewrite your story. I had written mine in bold,
permanent ink.
Looking back, the year brought unexpected healing alongside the drama. Vivian and I rebuilt slowly, coffee meetups, honest talks about her choices, therapy for both of us. She admitted the pattern started early, how Harlan's dominance had eroded her confidence too. Brandon's coffee meeting was awkward but real. He admitted envying my quiet competence while leaning into Harlan's approval. We didn't become close friends overnight, but the door opened. Lydia moved on quickly to someone with more visible wealth. Brandon focused on stabilizing his business, without family backing. Harlan's world contracted sharply. Lost clients, damaged reputation, and the settlement strained his finances. He attempted contact a few times, angry voicemails, legal threats, but the evidence I held kept him at bay. Public opinion remained largely on my side. The video humanized the struggle against toxic control many recognized. My firm thrived. New contracts poured in, partly fueled by the visibility. I mentored young analysts, especially women navigating male-dominated fields, sharing lessons about boundaries and hidden strength. The foundation I started awarded its first scholarships, honoring the girl who once doubted her worth. Evenings on the balcony became reflective rituals. The handcuff incident replayed sometimes in memory, the cold metal, the gasps, the helplessness, but now it symbolized breaking free. I had lived modestly to avoid conflict, hiding success that could have been celebrated. The secrecy protected me, but also isolated me. Coming forward forced authenticity. Friends like Marcus became chosen family. Over dinner he teased, "Told you success is revenge." We laughed, but it held truth. Revenge wasn't destruction, it was living fully despite attempts to diminish you. The story spread beyond viral clips. Podcasts and articles explored emotional abuse in high-achieving families, false imprisonment in professional settings, and the courage of speaking out. I declined most interviews to protect ongoing work and privacy, but quietly supported awareness efforts. One crisp fall afternoon, I visited the foundation office, meeting scholarship recipients, bright young women pursuing STEM and security careers. Their determination mirrored my younger self. I told them the story briefly, emphasizing that external validation isn't required when you know your value. Their eyes lit with possibility. Driving home, another helicopter passed, routine now, but still evocative. Life moved forward. The family I was born into fractured, but the life I chose flourished. The central question lingers for anyone listening. How long do we endure control disguised as love? When does silence become complicity in our own diminishment? My cuffs became keys. Yours might look different. Words, expectations,
Guilt.
the moment you decide to unlock them defines everything that follows. In the end, I didn't destroy my family out of spite. I refused to let them define me anymore.
Truth.
Once spoken, reshapes everything. And in that reshaping, I finally breathed freely. The water shimmered under the Miami sun, and for the first time in decades, the horizon felt entirely mine.